Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
A hearty welcome to Cineversary, a podcast that celebrates a milestone anniversary of a masterful work of cinema. Every month, we extend happy birthday wishes to a different film currently observing a joyous jubilee, from a 20th all the way up to a 100th anniversary. As ever, this is your devoted host, Eric Martin, creator of the Cineverse blog and moderator of the weekly Cineverse film discussion group. Hey, if this is your maiden voyage with us, drop anchor and get comfortable. First-time travelers, we are excited to have you aboard. Today, meta is everywhere. Name drops, self-references to the movie-making process, fourth wall breaking, and commenting on the nature of cinema itself is abundant in motion pictures. But 75 years ago, it was much less common. Then came a film that practically tore down that fourth wall and emboldened future filmmakers to call attention to how pictures were made, the way on- and off-screen talents were treated, and the fleeting nature of fame and celebrity. That movie was Sunset Boulevard, directed by Billy Wilder and originally released on August 10th, 1950. Regarded as one of the very best films noir and perhaps the greatest movie about Hollywood ever made, Sunset Boulevard celebrates a diamond anniversary this month. And to help mark this momentous occasion, I'll be rejoined by crowd favorite Eddie Muller, host of TCM's Noir Alley and founder-president of the Film Noir Foundation. Together, we're going to explore what makes this movie timeless and relevant, its influence on other filmmakers, prominent themes, and much, much more. Just ahead of that Mullerific conversation, however, why don't we step back in time and get a better context around why, how, and when Sunset Boulevard came to be. Sunset Boulevard is a darkly satirical American film that blends film noir with biting black comedy. Directed by Billy Wilder, who co-wrote the screenplay with Charles Brackett, the movie takes its title from the famous Hollywood thoroughfare. The narrative follows Joe Gillis, portrayed by William Holden, an unsuccessful screenwriter who becomes entangled with Norma Desmond, played by Gloria Swanson, a faded star of the silent era living in a decaying mansion and clinging to delusions of a grand cinematic comeback. Erich von Stroheim portrays Max von Mayerling, her fiercely loyal butler, while Nancy Olson, Jack Webb, and Fred Clark appear in supporting roles. Director Cecil B. DeMille and gossip columnist Hedda Hopper play themselves, as do Buster Keaton, H.B. Warner, and Anna Q. Nilsson, who make cameos. Wilder's fascination with the world of forgotten movie royalty began decades earlier in 1920s Berlin. Now, that's when his love of American films flourished. By the late 1940s, living in Los Angeles, Wilder saw firsthand the grand homes still inhabited by silent-era stars, many now far removed from the industry. This observation sparked the idea for a story about a once-revered star whose fame had long since faded. Work on the screenplay started in 1948, with filming beginning in May 1949, well before the ending had even been written. Wilder and Brackett's approach mixed noir's shadowy tone with acerbic humor, creating moments of uneasy laughter. Cases in point, the funeral of Norma's pet chimp, Joe's reluctant role as her kept man, slapstick-style home entertainments, and the eerily stiff card games with her circle of fellow forgotten celebrities. Swanson was ultimately cast as Norma, though Wilder initially considered Mae West, Greta Garbo, Pola Negri, Clara Bow, and Norma Shearer. Most declined, either disliking the script or avoiding roles that reflected career decline. Montgomery Clift was first signed as Joe Gillis, but withdrew shortly before production, leading Wilder to choose Holden. For the role of Betty Schaefer, Wilder selected Nancy Olson to contrast Swanson's larger-than-life presence. Filming included authentic touches. For example, DeMille shot his scenes on the Samson and Delilah set at Paramount and used a real nickname he had for Swanson. Cinematographer John Seitz created the film's distinctive look, even dusting the air before interior shots to evoke mustiness. The famous image of Gillis's body, shown from the bottom of the pool, was actually achieved using a mirror on the pool floor, reflecting Holden floating from above. Set designer Hans Dreyer, whose career stretched back to the silent era, crafted Norma's lavishly grotesque home. Some critics called it overdone, but contemporaries noted many real-life stars had equally ornate interiors. Franz Waxman's score tied the film together, contrasting a tango-inspired theme for Norma, referencing her having once danced with Rudolph Valentino, with a bebop motif for Joe, along with distorted echoes of 1920s and 1930s film music to mirror Norma's unstable mindset. Upon release, Sunset Boulevard was widely acclaimed, earning 11 Academy Award nominations, including all 4 acting categories, and ultimately winning 3 Oscars. It's now regarded as one of the greatest of all motion pictures, and in 1989 the Library of Congress selected it for preservation in the National Film Registry. The AFI, meanwhile, ranked it 12th on its 1998 list of the century's greatest American films, and later 16th on its 2007 update. Visit Rotten Tomatoes and you'll see that the film today garners a 98% fresh rating against a 95% popcorn meter audience score, and at Metacritic you'll see a 94% Metascore. What say we climb into Norma's Izzata Fraschini now and let Max take us for a drive back to the original theatrical trailer for Sunset Boulevard.
Speaking. I'm talking from the bedroom of Norma Desmond. Don't bother with a rewrite, man. Take this direct. Ready? As day breaks over the murder house.
Yes, you'll read the big black headlines about Norma Desmond and this Hollywood scandal. But you'll never read the true story about the rest of us who were part of it. Me, for instance, Joe Gillis, a promising young writer from Dayton, Ohio. And Betty, that nice kid I met at a Hollywood party who knew nothing about me, but knew what she wanted. Don't you love Artie?
Of course I love him. I always will. I'm just not in love with him anymore.
What happened?
You did?
Well, we should have lived happily ever after, like they do in the movies. But this was different, because this is a Hollywood story about the people who make the movies. The little ones that you never hear of, like Betty and me. The great ones like Cecil B. DeMille. All those who knew Norma Desmond, a strange woman who left her mark on all of us who crossed her path. Has it ever occurred to you that I may have a life of my own, that there may be some girl that I'm crazy about?
Who? Some car hop or a dress extra?
What I'm trying to say is that I'm all wrong for you. You want a Valentino, somebody with polo ponies, a big shot.
What you're trying to say is you don't want me to love you. Say it. Say it.
Gloria Swanson, one of the great personalities of this generation in a role that comes to an actress once in a lifetime. Rising to the heights, William Holden creates a startling portrayal. And a new star is born in Sunset Boulevard, Miss Nancy Olson.
Joe? Where are you? What's this all about?
Why don't you come out and see for yourself? The address is 10,086 Sunset Boulevard.
Yes, come out to see for yourself the film that reaches a new milestone of dramatic daring. The film that every critic says is a giant among motion pictures.
We've come to that point in the show where it's my duty as host to remind you that a drive through Sunset Boulevard is also a journey through Spoilerville. So before we head any further, be honest with yourself. Have you seen this movie before? If not, you'll want to hit pause, watch the film, and return at this point. Miss Desmond has some pretty harsh words for those who refuse to follow this advice.
Those imbeciles. Haven't they got any eyes? Have they forgotten what a star looks like?
Okay, calm down now, Norma. It's time to roll out the red carpet for our esteemed guest. He last visited with us over a year ago now to commemorate it was the golden anniversary of Chinatown, and previously he helped us celebrate the 75th birthdays of Out of the Past and Double Indemnity. Now we've got another diamond jubilee of a noir masterwork here, and we of course had to ask him back. Let's say hello now to the founder and president of the Film Noir Foundation, the publisher of Noir Magazine, author of several books including Dark City, The Lost World of Film Noir, longtime host of Turner Classic Movies Noir Alley, and the undisputed czar of noir, Eddie Muller. Eddie, are you ready for your close-up?
Very good. Yes, I am, Eric, and thank you for having me back. And it's amazing that you have had me on your show 4 times now, and just hearing you, recall those episodes. Those are like 4 of my favorite movies of all time.
Ditto.
So it's great. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, right back at you. I mean, I got to be honest too. Whenever you on our show, boy, we got a spike in listenership. Yeah, people they lap up the Eddie Muller interviews. So it's a treat for everybody.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, someday I'm sure people are going to have enough of me, and say that guy again.
I wouldn't count on it. So let's go back into the Muller memory vaults, if you will. When and where did you first watch Sunset Boulevard, Eddie? Do you recall? And for that matter, what was its initial impact on you, and maybe how has your esteem grown?
I'm going to level with you, Eric. I honestly cannot remember the first time I saw it. I know I've seen it a bunch of times. I will tell you that my first impression of it, I do recall, was that it was surprisingly grotesque.
Wow.
That was sort of what I thought about it, because I guess, I had seen William Holden in movies. I'd never seen a Gloria Swanson picture, because I was a teenager. Let's get this right. I was a teenager, and it was probably, I would say, 1970 or somewhere around there when I saw it. And it obviously had a reputation already. It blows my mind to realize that when I saw that film and I was thinking of it as like, wow, this is some old movie that I heard was great. And then I realized it's like, 20-year-old movie.
At the time, right. Yep.
And it just seemed like all those films that I watched that were called classics when I was a kid were not really that old.
I know, I can relate. Absolutely.
When you were told as a young person who was interested in film and stuff, like, well, the greatest movie ever made is Citizen Kane.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally see Citizen Kane, and you realize that at that point when I saw it, it was 30 years old.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that would be like watching a film from 1995 and saying this cinema relic.
Exactly. Of course, back then, people who were, let's say, in their 50s or 60s, it was more like they were in their 70s or 80s. Time was metered differently back then in terms of perspective or perception.
Exactly. This is part of what we're going to talk about with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to this being a movie about Hollywood and a movie, about the movie business and all of that, it's also really a film about aging.
Sure.
It's about time and aging and the tricks that time plays on you. And I feel that now. So when you say, how has the movie changed over the years and you're watching it, it's because I get older. We all get older. And all of a sudden you're seeing things in the film that hit you very differently as you mature.
Yes, like now I can relate to, wow, I'm probably older than Norma Desmond.
Oh, I'm significantly older than Norma Desmond.
Does she give her age in the movie? I can't remember.
I mean, you can puzzle it out.
Yes.
They clearly didn't want to state what her age was in the film. They wanted her to just create this woman embalmed in her past,
Yes.
But interestingly, she would have been the same age as Gloria Swanson, right?
Perfect symmetry.
I mean, because it was her. For all intents and purposes, it was her. not in terms of the character's psyche and mentality, but in terms of her life and career.
Yeah, perfect casting.
It was her. Yeah, it was. We'll have a ball talking about women that were considered for the role.
I know. There's so much trivia involved in here, but first we got to get to the important stuff. And before we get into that, here's a little, not even trivia, but just remarking on casting and so forth. This was just something that never struck me before, but I couldn't get over. William Holden in this film looks a lot like Tom Hanks.
Interesting. That had never actually occurred to me, but I see what you're seeing there. And if they did a remake of the film, I mean, Hanks is too old now.
Now, absolutely. But I'm saying when in his younger prime, he would have been perfect.
Yes. But, until he got older, Tom Hanks didn't have the edge to his performance. He was so avuncular. That was when they were calling him, the new Jimmy Stewart, as opposed to the new William Holden,
Yeah, he didn't quite have the cynicism.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember when that kind of I guess it was when he started, when he did Philadelphia and Road to Perdition and stuff like that.
Now, just pure physical resemblance. That's all. I was just struck by wow, I had to freeze frame a few moments the haircut.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And I'm looking forward to discussing Holden's performance.
Yes.
And just where the whole thing came about in his career and how amazing this film was for him and how I think his performance gets a little overshadowed by the more grotesque aspects of the movie, shall we say.
Yeah, it's true. But what an amazing springboard for his career. Absolutely. Yeah. So let's start from the beginning here in terms of just appreciating this movie for what it is. And what it is a lot. 75th anniversary, Diamond Jubilee. So what elements help make this movie a masterwork?
The screenplay, which I don't mean to chuckle or anything. I think it's about the most perfect script imaginable. And I find that it's the rare film that can combine so many tones and pull it off and integrate all that stuff so that it actually makes sense and becomes something singular. And I do find this film to be somewhat singular. There are other movies about Hollywood, but there's no other movie about Hollywood made this way that has that incredibly dark sense of humor and has elements of film noir. It has elements of a horror movie. It's a movie about the movies, all of this stuff. It's about the creative process. It's about selling your soul, all of this stuff. I mean, there's so much going on in this film, but all of that is in the screenplay. So to me, it all starts with the script. And then it's a textbook example of how you go about through this collaborative medium, getting all the perfect people to bring what's in the script to life.
Yeah, I mean, it's arguably the best film made by one of the great American directors, Billy Wilder. Now, where you rank this in his filmography is up to you, but to me, I don't know. It could be the very best. I mean, he's known for so many masterpieces, too. It ranks number 12 and number 16, which would be Wilder's highest-ranked film on the AFI's Top 100 Greatest American Movies of All Time lists from 1998 to 2007, for what that's worth. In 1999, this film was ranked number 43 on the Village Voice list of the top 250 films of the century. There have been many other plaudits. 2002 Sight and Sound poll, it was number 63 among critics. It was also an impressive number 12 among directors. By 2022, the most recent Sight and Sound directors poll, it remained highly regarded. It came in at number 62. Let's see, in 2015, it was ranked number 54 on BBC Culture's list of the 100 greatest American films. You talked about that screenplay. Well, the Writers Guild of America has recognized this as the 7th greatest screenplay ever written.
I don't know how you decide these things.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, it's hard to argue against The Godfather and Citizen Kane and Casablanca, right? Like, I understand.
Yeah, of course. Just rankings always blow my mind. It's been, to be included in the group is what really matters.
Exactly.
It was on my list. I got to vote in the last Sight and Sound poll, and it's in my top 10.
Oh, your top 10 of all time, not just noir.
No, not just noir, of all time.
Yes, that's wow, amazing. So glad we have you here as a champion of the film. It also commands a 98% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 94 out of 100 Metascore on Metacritic. So, okay, we've got the numbers out of the way. But what else is representational of greatness here? Well, it boasts a stellar combination of talents. You have two of the greatest screenplay writers ever, Wilder and Charles Brackett. Gloria Swanson, William Holden, Eric von Stroheim.
Yes,
he was nominated for supporting actor.
He was, but in classic von Stroheim fashion, he says, "What is with supporting? I should be best actor." You know?
But I mean, they all received Academy Award nominations for their performances. You've got Franz Waxman attached to this movie.
Yes.
Brooding brilliant score there, and he earned Oscar Gold for the music. So fantastic lighting and compositions by master noir cinematographer John Seitz.
Indeed.
And also costumes by the legendary Edith Head. Like, just think of all the talent involved here.
Uncanny. Absolutely unbelievable.
I'm reading that the film was nominated for 11 Oscars total. It did win 3. Now, this is all about Eve's year, 1950. That movie scored 6 Oscars, including Best Picture, and 14 nominations. So it's really hard going up against that juggernaut. But as you said, it's also regarded, Sunset Boulevard, as probably the finest movie ever made about Tinseltown, and one of the first and great meta films of them all.
Yes.
In which the movie is self-reflexive about the making of motion pictures, right? Today, meta is all over the place. But back then, that would have been eye-opening to a lot of people.
Yes.
So we're given this insider's look at how the industry works, Hollywood's winners and losers, the cynicism inherent in the industry.
Of course.
And, Turner Classic Movies, your home base, in their article on this, described it as, quote, one of the first serious treatments of life in Hollywood, coming at a time when most movies about movies were irony-free comedies and musicals. So I think this is an important point. Again, the meta aspect of Sunset Boulevard and the taking down several pegs of Hollywood in general.
I couldn't agree more. And I think there was definitely something in the air, and things were changing, like right at the midway point of the century, the century of cinema. They were just kind of growing into their own. I thought that 1950, I always argue that 1950 was the greatest year in the history of Hollywood movies, not 1939. I think it was 1950. And part of the reason for that is because of the cynicism that had crept into the business. By 1950, made for much more mature works like All About Eve and Sunset Boulevard. And, that same year, there was a lot, The Asphalt Jungle and all kinds of great movies were made in 1950. But yes, what you're talking about is, I think this is the first time that an artist held like a funhouse mirror up to the business and said, look at yourself. And I think it really made some people crazy because they didn't like what Wilder was showing. He was also kind of lifting the lid a little bit and saying, all those people you read about in Photoplay that you loved, 20 years ago, well, what do you think of their lives now? And also, one thing I just want to make sure I say is so many people talk about the work of a director as though it's something that's just on the screen. The reason this film is so fantastic is what Billy Wilder did in preparing for this film, because he had the guts to ask people to be in this film. He appealed, I think, to their vanity, which is a big part of what the film is about. And he ended up getting people in this film that were like, am I really going to do this? And I don't know if they all knew what they were getting into. I think Gloria Swanson knew exactly what she was getting into. But I'm not sure, like the fact that he asked von Stroheim to be in it, when that could be a total humiliation.
Right, a self-parody.
And a self-parody, and the fact that they end up using the clip from Queen Kelly as like a movie that he directed and was fired from by Gloria Swanson.
Right, but you also get Cecil B. DeMille, you get
Exactly.
Buster Keaton, H.B. Warner,
Yes.
Anna Q. Nilsson. Gossip columnist Hedda Hopper comes across looking not very flattering.
She does not look very flat, but Cecil B. DeMille comes out as the only human person in the business, when in truth, Billy Wilder really didn't like him at all.
That's right.
I mean, they were diametrically opposed politically. and yet he knew, and this is what I love about Billy Wilder, everything was secondary to what is perfect for the movie. And he asked DeMille, and it had to be DeMille, right? No other person could have been cast in that part.
That's called being a committed filmmaker.
Absolutely.
He put ego and vanity and personal grudges aside to make the best film possible.
Yep. And he actually let DeMille change dialogue in his screenplay, which Billy Wilder never did.
Wow.
It was like, no. Like there was just a line in his scene with Gloria Swanson where she said, I remember you were dancing on a table. And Cecil B. DeMille said, that's not going to work because under no circumstances would I ever be dancing on a table. And so they changed the line to that she was dancing on the table. Wilder did not accept that from everybody.
You got to pick your battles.
Oh, you bet. You bet.
Right. But I mean, The film's greatest meta achievement, of course, is the casting of Swanson and von Stroheim, as we say, who portray a former actress and film director. The roles they served in real life years ago during Hollywood's silent movie age. Talk about meta.
Yeah.
So Desmond's character also draws clear inspiration, from what I'm reading here, from the real-life decline of several silent-era stars. Her reclusive lifestyle echoes that of Paula Negri and Mary Pickford, and maybe the psychological instability recalls figures like Clara Bow and Valeska Surratt and Audrey Munson, Mae Murray. Many film historians believe her name was crafted as a nod to silent film actress Mabel Normand and director William Desmond Taylor. And if you read up on Taylor, he had the scandalous 1922 murder that's still unsolved, from what I understand, that captivated the public and media alike. So they're giving a lot of Easter eggs to people who know the backstories and the skeletons in Hollywood's closet here.
Absolutely. And I just think, from a writing standpoint, I just think that's brilliant, because it doesn't matter whether it's a direct allusion or not. Mm-hmm. It just suggests something, And yeah, Norma Desmond. It's interesting that you would almost believe that she was real. The name is so perfect. Everything about it is so perfect. The way Swanson just blends with the character.
Right.
If you were doing a trivia contest and you asked people, name a silent movie star, they'd say Norma Desmond.
Probably. That's so funny you say that. You're probably right. But Wilder and his collaborators, they also lend authenticity and verisimilitude by doing what? By name-dropping real players, referencing actual movies. Alan Ladd, Tyrone Power, Daryl Zanuck, Greta Garbo, Rudolph Valentino. And then you have name drops of Gone with the Wind, King Kong, Queen Kelly. So again, it just adds so much reality to the proceedings here.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that imagine seeing it at the time, when all of that stuff was very, very fresh. I mean, when they talk about Alan Ladd is making movies. Alan Ladd went to see this film, right? Mm-hmm. When Fred Clark, as Sheldrake, the producer in the beginning, says, "No, I'm the one who passed on Gone with the Wind." Gone with the Wind was only 10 years old when they were making this film.
That's true.
Right?
Yep.
So all of that stuff you're talking about is incredibly timely.
And it's amazing world building, too, because it's the real world.
Yes, which is what angered so many people in Hollywood. Those who were angered by the film, felt that Billy Wilder was biting the hand that fed him, and he was.
You, of course, know the famous story with Louis B. Mayer and the confrontation with you.
Yes.
Folks, look it up. But basically, Wilder told him to eat shit.
My favorite version of that story, he said, "For once, wit failed me." Because his response, as I heard it, was simply, "Fuck you." I mean, and that was it. How dare you? It was, Mayer was just reading him the riot act, like, how dare you make a picture like this? It's a desecration of our business and blah, blah, blah. And he gave, and Wilder had the simple 2-word response, which was very un-Billy Wilder,
Right. Yeah. But you mentioned the screenplay, which to you is the all-star, and I can't argue. It's incredible writing here, but it's some of the sharpest dialogue, most treasured lines of any film in history, particularly those delivered by Swanson, so infinitely quotable in ironic and non-ironic ways. But it's hardly surprising considering, written by the tag team champions of Wilder and Brackett. So everything from...
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
You're Norma Desmond. Used to be in silent pictures. Used to be big.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small. We didn't need dialogue. We had faces.
You don't yell at a sleepwalker. He may fall and break his neck.
No one ever leaves a star. That's what makes one a star.
She was the greatest of them all. You wouldn't know. You're too young. In 1 week, she received 17,000 fan letters. Men bribed the hairdresser to get a lock of her hair. There was a Maharaja who came all the way from India to beg one of her silk stockings. Later, he strangled himself with it.
It was a great big white elephant of a place. The kind crazy movie people built in the crazy 20s. A neglected house gets an unhappy look. This one had it in spades. It was like that old woman in Great Expectations. That Miss Havisham in her rotting wedding dress and her torn veil, taking it out on the world because she'd been given the go-by.
Like you say, it's all just fantastic. And I, being a writer, I just get goosebumps when I imagine Billy Wilder and Brackett writing this stuff. And like when the line first occurs to him, Like, I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
Great stuff.
I can just imagine how great that must feel to put that line on paper. Like that's going to kill. That's just going to be great. And those are throughout the movie. There are lines in the film that, or if not lines, there are just situations in the film that I love so much. All the stuff, the confidential stuff with Max and Joe, when he admits that, he's been writing all the fan letters for all those years.
He steals every scene he is in, Erich von Stroheim.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love about Wilder's writing is I know for a fact that he's laughing when he's writing this stuff. That when he's writing a line like, the Maharaji came for one of her stockings. Later, he strangled himself with it. I know he's chortling to himself.
Gotta be.
About the black humor in that, but he doesn't allow it to be played that way. He just plays it straight, and the humor is there if you want it, and it's kind of poignant and sad, and it becomes tragic. This circles back to the very first question you asked me, Eric, was, how has the film changed for you over time? What was your impression when you first saw it, and how has it changed? And I said, I was surprised at how grotesque the film was the first time I saw it. But now I watch it, and the big surprise is how much empathy I have for Norma, and how that character, which when you're a teenager seems grotesque to you,
sure, as
you age and get older, you empathize with her more and more.
True. It's a sign of maturity.
Yeah. Even if she's nuts and she's crazy and everything, where she's coming from. And I just think that Wilder's sensitivity in how things are played, despite the fact that he knows when he's written a keeper, like, this is a great line, this will be fantastic. And another thing I want to just comment on about the writing of this script is, Brackett and Wilder were kind of testy comrades.
And this is their last collaboration too. So
this was their last collaboration, and this one kind of blew it apart. And it was partly because of Wilder's willingness to go that far, to go really dark, and to be super provocative and unpleasant, which was something that Brackett never wanted to be. East Coast blue blood, and this is oversimplifying it, but he was a conservative Republican, and Billy Wilder was a liberal Democrat, and they didn't agree on much, but they were a great team writing together because they sort of kept each other in check. Brackett made sure that Wilder didn't just go way off the deep end, and Brackett was a good structuralist, and he had a good sense of story. And I always felt that Wilder did his best work, obviously, did all of his work with collaborators. He just, for whatever reason, he needed somebody in the room with him to prime the pump and to get the motor going. And even though he would invariably dominate all of his collaborators to the point where they kind of couldn't stand him after a while, it was a great creative process. And they realized that even when they couldn't work together anymore. I mean, it was a breakup, but it wasn't, a hatred or anything. It was just like, I can't do this anymore.
People drift away, no question. You talked a few moments ago about how this film checks several different boxes, several genre and subgenre boxes, if you will. And you could think of it first and foremost as a noir or a black comedy, maybe a character-driven drama, a satire, a romance. Is it a horror film? Is it a meta movie? Or is it something else? I'm not trying to box you in, no pun intended, but do you first and foremost think of it as a noir or something else?
Well, come on. I'm that guy, right? So I do tend to think of it as a noir because I've spent a lot of years asserting that it's a noir when a lot of other people didn't think it was. And in some respects, I just see it as a bookend, in a sense, to Double Indemnity, because he's doing so many of the same things that made Double Indemnity the film that really kickstarted the noir movement in Hollywood. But he's tweaking them, and like I said, holding up that funhouse mirror to it. But it is, on the simplest level, Norma is the femme fatale who is the last person that Joe should ever meet, because she's going to know how to push all of his buttons and expose the worst of him, right?
With her clinging claws and the way she looks out of her shade, she's the perfect Spider-Woman. I mean, she looks like a Spider-Woman.
Correct. But then, and this is where over time you start to really come to appreciate this, you realize that Norma is also a victim, that Hollywood is the femme fatale for Norma, and she can't shake it. She can't leave it alone.
Therein are the noirish thematic elements of inescapable fate, you could argue. And
exactly.
Fate not only for Joe, but also her.
Exactly. And so and there are a number of films that I've always enjoyed that sort of have shifting protagonists, right? Joe is the protagonist of the film. It's his story when it starts out, but halfway through, it kind of becomes Norma's story because you end up empathizing with her and investing a lot in how is this going to turn out. And although she is the antagonist in the story, it's genius that she ends up being a sympathetic figure. As mad as she is sympathetic by the end of the film.
Totally agree. It's important because if you just hated her from first to last frame, it would be a very different kind of femme fatale, obviously, but also movie. And she's complicated. She's not your classic Spider-Woman in the archetypal sense.
No, because those scenes in the film where the New Year's Eve party scene where there's nobody there and Joe realizes, oh my God.
It's 10:15. What time are they supposed to get here?
Food.
The other guests.
There are no other guests. We don't want to share this night with other people. This is for you and me.
Oh?
Hold me tighter.
Okay. Come midnight, how about blindfolding the orchestra and smashing champagne glasses over Max's head?
You think this is all very funny?
A little. An hour dragged by. I felt caught like the cigarette in that contraption on her finger.
Then the film is about something much, much deeper than what you think it is it's no longer a Hollywood movie.
It's arguably a movie about mental illness, which, again, evokes a lot of sympathy.
Well, it's a movie about mental illness, but exactly. And that's a situation that anybody watching this movie, you don't have to be a movie star, can relate to. It's like, oh my God, I'm in this incredibly codependent relationship with this person who is like suicidal.
And then the fact that he's got to come back because he feels so sorry and culpability in terms of the suicide attempt. I mean, that really hits me when I'm watching this movie. And as the older I get, again, the more empathy I feel for the characters.
Absolutely.
What kind of a silly thing was that to do?
To fall in love with you, that was the idiotic thing.
Sure would have made attractive headlines. Great star kills herself for unknown writer.
Great stars have great pride. Go away. Go to that girl of yours.
Look, I was making that up because I thought the whole thing was a mistake. I didn't want to hurt you. You've been good to me. You're the only person in this stinking town that has been good to me.
Why don't you just say thank you and go? Go, go.
Not until you promise to act like a sensible human being.
I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do it again.
And it's so intriguing because I showed this film one time, to a packed house. It goes over like gangbusters every time. But afterwards, a guy came up to me in the lobby and said, I don't get it. I don't get the movie. And I'm like, well, what didn't you get? And he said, why did he go back? And I just thought, wow, it's amazing that this guy had no concept of that kind of compassion. Or, it was just like he got out. He got the younger one. Mm-hmm. She was into him. Why did he go back? And it's like, man, how do you explain to like a person in their 40s, like, seriously? It's like, I can talk about movies, but I can't talk about what is lacking in your life.
Yeah, instead of film therapy, he might need some real therapy. But again, checks all the noir boxes. We totally agree. It's also rife with elements of horror. It includes an old dark house in the form of this decrepit Gothic mansion. You hear toccata and fugue being creepily played from a giant pipe organ. That signifies horror, if nothing else. You got a midnight graveyard burial, rats running wild. I mean, Max serves as this Igor-like assistant of sorts to Norma's mad scientist. She peeks through the shades, and to me it resembles a giant spider web. Norma embodies a surprisingly violent vampiric creature with Nosferatu-like claws. She slowly sucks away Joe's dignity and self-respect. There's some horror going on here. No question about it.
Oh, I don't deny that at all. And it's interesting that the word that comes to mind when I watch Sunset Boulevard is decay. It's a decaying life and a decaying mansion. And that's always been an aspect of horror. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what horror is, right? It takes all the human vulnerabilities. And I think we're all find a certain terror in aging, right? And decay is what comes with aging. And so that's a big part of this film, from the house and everything else. It's just, I think it's rendered so brilliantly in this movie. And of course, it has to be this opulent mansion that is just done. It's over. Its time is over. It's gone now.
Right.
The actual mansion is gone. It got bulldozed and it's history now. There's some fresh new steel and glass thing in its place, right? Which is so symbolic.
Wow. This could be both the greatest satire and, as I said, meta film ever made about the inner workings of Hollywood and the many skeletons buried there. You consider even the opening credits. It shows the film's title literally superimposed over a gutter and then displays cast and crew names in a step-down pattern. And to me, that suggests perhaps a descent from loftier heights, right? But it also satisfies as a consistently humorous black comedy, one that goes more for clever comedic touches and grin-inducing moments than broad guffaw-generating laughs. It's not like an absolute knee-slapper of a movie, but again, black comedy. But we also can't deny that, even if there's subplots, the film works on a romantic level, too. I'm going to quote Roger Ebert in his Great Movies review. He said that it's also a love story, and the love keeps it from becoming simply a waxworks or a freak show. I feel Joe's pangs of romance, desire, and betrayal to his friend Artie, for example.
Yeah.
In his blossoming amorous relationship with Betty. And even if it's out of pity or selfishness, let's not forget the would-be romance between Norma and Joe. He returns to Norma after her suicide attempt. He initiates an intimate embrace, and he remains her kept man for the rest of the picture. So it is a romance, too.
Yes, it is definitely a romance. And what you said there is so important, because it is the love story that gives the picture its soul, which interestingly reminds me of another film that I put on my Sight and Sound list, which is a companion piece to this film, is Mulholland Drive.
Oh, it's my favorite movie of the 21st century.
Mine too.
Wow, like mine's.
In much the same way, Mulholland Drive would be a freak show were it not for the actual palpable love story that you feel between Betty, Diane, and Rita, in that film. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's something so genuine and so moving about the connection between those two women in the film that it holds the freak show together.
You're absolutely right.
Simple way of putting it, mm-hmm. but it's absolutely true. Without Naomi Watts and Laura Herring, I don't know that Mulholland Drive, I don't know if we're talking about it like one of the great films of the century, but with them, it becomes much, much deeper and more soulful than maybe even David Lynch realized he was getting.
Well said. Completely agree. But I mean, this movie, again, as far as checking boxes, there's even a sequence early on with the Repo Men where we think, hey, maybe this is going to turn into a chase film. And even you ruminate on the ending sequence in which this totally unhinged Norma walks down the staircase to greet the cameras, which can be described as simultaneously comical, pathetic, eerie, disturbing, depressing, grandiose, grotesque, you use that word, even beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again. You don't know how much I've missed all of you. And I promise you I'll never desert you again. Because after Salome, we'll make another picture and another picture. You see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
just as it can slot within different genre folders, these final images, to me, they reinforce how the entire film can evoke many different feelings and reactions from the audience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And underneath all of that, I will again give full praise to Billy Wilder, because all of that is achieved only because he had the audacity to reach for it. Like, I don't think he said to anybody, this is the thing we're going for. He just set up that scene and knew that something amazing was going to come out of this. And they didn't get it the first few times, right? Because my understanding is that was the very last thing shot.
Fitting.
And it didn't actually work. For whatever reason, it didn't work. And so they all reassembled months later to reshoot it. Gloria Swanson had already moved back to New York and everything. And they brought her out just to do that one scene, because and that's what I mean when I think Wilder was reaching for something and he wasn't entirely sure what it was or how to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But he would know when they achieved it. And everybody is responsible for that incredible scene. I mean, the concept of it is extraordinary.
It's the iconic signature visual from the entire movie. It's the one that every highlight will always include.
And the music is extraordinary, the staging of the scene, but it's all Gloria Swanson. It all comes down to Gloria Swanson.
Incredible. Just what she does with her eyebrows. It's amazing.
And what she does with her hands, and the fact she's wearing that gown and she has to go down those stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And when they first shot it, she was in heels, which made it really hard because she was very tentative and nervous walking down the stairs in those heels, because she's doing the Salome dance, with her hands and her arms and all this stuff. And then what you don't realize is it's not just get to the bottom and we've got this thing. Then she has her scene.
Yep.
Then she breaks down and says, I'm so happy, and you're all here. And she gives this really heartfelt, completely off her nut, but very meaningful, soliloquy about how much show business means to her. And then utters the all-time classic line, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. And then she walks right into the camera, which is absolute genius. After she has broken the fourth wall and made eye contact with the audience, you people out there in the dark, right? So now Wilder has sucked every single person watching this movie now has a personal stake in it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. That you hit on it. That's what it is. It's a culmination of everything you just described, but to end on her just advancing toward the lens, that's genius stuff.
And you're not even sure, so many critics and people, they want the takeaway. They want somebody to tell them, and what does that mean? And there isn't an answer to that. It's like a Rorschach test. What does that mean? She walks right into our consciousness, essentially. And Norma is now like, is she part of us? Or is he saying that we all have a little Norma in us? Or is it just, if you want to be dismissive, you just say, hey, it was a clever way to do a fade out, because that's it. Like, what happens to Norma now? Well, they put her away. She gets institutionalized. It's just the way the whole scene was conceived is just so amazing. And even Max gets his moment where he gets to act like he's directing again.
Yep.
Even though they're just newsreel cameras and he's just standing there, but he gets to give the direction, it's so beautiful.
Totally. Yeah. You can go on for volumes talking about just the final sequence. But boy, time's against us, so we got to talk about a few other points here, and including what was innovative or influential about Sunset Boulevard. Maybe it inspired some other filmmakers in subsequent movies. So that, to me, thanks to the metastructure that provides textual and subtextual commentary on the film industry, I think it likely inspired subsequent movies to adopt similar approaches, like the casting of actors and filmmakers who play themselves and riff on their personas.
Yeah.
Without this work, I think you can fairly say you probably don't have follow-up films like, let's say, The Bad and the Beautiful, The Star, Barefoot Contessa, that they give us a continued inside look at the workings of Hollywood. You ponder, too, how many more contemporary movies like, let's say, Altman's The Player, or Spike Jonze's Being John Malkovich, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, how they feature actors and directors playing themselves to somewhat comedic effect. And that was a trend that became more accepted and mainstream, you could argue, after Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said The Bad and the Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think The Bad and the Beautiful gets made without this film, which is ironic considering that that's an MGM movie, right?
Yep.
I don't think, well, by that point, Louis B. Mayer had lost his grip on the studio.
That's true.
So his attitude about it didn't really matter. But, that was a film that actors were playing known people in the movie business at that point. And also the same year as Sunset Boulevard, there was another Hollywood movie that is a personal favorite of mine, In a Lonely Place.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before. Kind of more newly discovered Humphrey Bogart vehicle. When I say newly discovered, it's become reappraised as one of the great noirs.
He wasn't playing into the persona that made him popular, in the 60s and 70s, where he was the trench coat and the fedora. And, it wasn't Casablanca and the Big Sleep and the Maltese Falcon. But it's a great Hollywood movie. But interestingly, Wilder had the inspiration to cast recognizable people in his film, whereas Nick Ray, when he did In a Lonely Place, did not. I mean, he could have cast, the real Mike Romanoff in the movie as the restaurant guy. He could have cast actual columnists and writers and things in the film, but they didn't.
Probably on a shorter leash.
I'm certain of it. I'm certain of it. But the unexpected one that always surprised me is when I learned, and I don't know why we're bringing him up so often during this hour, David Lynch, that I learned when he was at AFI making Eraserhead, he would show Sunset Boulevard to people working with him.
Yeah.
Saying this is the feel. This is what we want. And so I go back to when I said, decay plays a big part in this, because that's the sense you get watching Eraserhead. It's like there's a world that is just decaying and falling apart. And he was definitely inspired by Sunset Boulevard. I have no doubt, I don't know this for a fact, but I have no doubt asserting that Sunset Boulevard had to be one of David Lynch's favorite.
He's referenced it in interviews, so you're absolutely right. But,
okay, good.
But, I mean, this picture was undoubtedly an influence on later films like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, right? Woman in the Dunes, if you think about that.
Yeah.
Movie. The Day of the Locust, or, as we said, Mulholland Drive. And several cinematic works reference this film directly in their scripts or echo its themes, lines, or imagery through homage. You think of Soap Dish or Mrs. Doubtfire, Gods and Monsters, Cecil B. Demented from 2000,
yeah.
Be Cool, Inland Empire. You get name drops, references to Sunset Boulevard. So it's pervaded into the pop culture, no question about it. Also evidenced by its being spoofed, referenced, or mirrored in things like TV episodes of The Twilight Zone or The Carol Burnett Show. There's some great skits about spoofs on Sunset Boulevard. American Dad, Archer, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Twin Peaks, Third Rock from the Sun, Desperate Housewives, and Australian wrestler Tony Storm, I guess, portrays a highly theatrical character that draws significant inspiration from Norma Desmond and her butler Max. Have you seen videos of this?
She was at the TCM Film Festival this last year.
Oh my God!
I'm not endorsing it, believe me. But yeah, she draws from classic cinema. She's kind of a cross between Norma and Marilyn.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, she's platinum blonde and she does the whole thing, but
performance art.
She looks more like Marilyn, but she acts more like Norma.
Interesting.
That's the deal.
Well, again, it just speaks to the pervasive nature and so forth. Also, Eddie, you ruminate on how the movie seemed prescient in its focus on the dark side of fame and celebrity culture, as well as celebrity crime. Now, Norma killing Joe, it makes me think of the later murders associated, of course, with Robert Blake, O.J. Simpson, Phil Spector. And Sunset Boulevard's cynical tone helps peel back the facade of the Hollywood dream factory. It's exposing its rotten underbelly and preoccupations with past glory. So, and just in terms of life imitating art a little bit, and just that focus on celebrity culture, celebrity crime, there's that element as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, that's why I think it certainly qualifies as a film noir. I mean, the criminal aspect of the story, the fact that it does end in a murder.
Yep.
begin with the murder, and come loops back around to explain how Joe got his swimming pool. All that makes perfect sense, but it's also just the deceitful dynamics between the characters is something, part and parcel of film noir. Everybody is using everybody else. That's the thing that I think is the takeaway in the movie, and is pretty much Wilder's very, very cynical take on the business. Is everybody's looking for an angle, everybody's trying to take advantage. I mean, let's face it, Joe is using Norma because he's going to take her money, and he doesn't really think anything's going to come of it, but he's exploiting her. And then he finds out, hey, guess what? You're the one being exploited, and you're too stupid to even see it.
Totally.
But that applies to every single character in the movie, except Betty Schaefer. But maybe not, maybe because Betty is like cozying up to Joe. I mean,
that's true.
The way Nancy Olson plays Betty is she's, so much wholesome Olson that it's not obvious that she's using him.
What's the wonderful news?
Sheldrake likes the angle about the teacher.
What teacher?
Dark windows. I got him all hopped up about it. He thinks it could be made into something.
Okay, where's the cash?
Where's the story? I bluffed it out with a few notions of my own. It's really just a springboard. It needs work.
I was afraid of that.
I've got 20 pages of notes, and I've got a pretty good character for the man.
Could you write in plenty of background action so they'll need an extra assistant director, huh?
Oh, Artie, shut up. Now, if we could sit down for 2 weeks to get a story.
I'm sorry, Miss Schaefer. I've given up writing on spec.
But I tell you, this is half sold.
As a matter of fact, I've given up writing altogether.
Mr. Gillis.
I've got to run along. Thanks anyway for your interest in my career.
It's not your career, it's mine. I'd kind of hoped to get in on this deal. I don't want to be a reader all my life. I want to write.
I'm sorry if I crossed you up.
You sure have.
Is it professional or personal, her interest?
Yeah, there is a bit of ambiguity there, and I like that. But, it just doesn't explore to the extent that maybe some people would want if they're looking for more romance in this. But again, it's not necessarily about that subplot. But that subplot is very, very important. But what I was going to say is, what's in terms of innovative or influential, just the twisted sex angle here, something they couldn't fully, of course, explore in 1950. But controversial for its depiction of an older, rich woman essentially paying a man for companionship and, wink, wink, sex, right?
Yeah.
What's perhaps narratively innovative is that the whole story revolves around this relationship, delving deeply into Norma's intense obsession and with Joe's reliance on her, as we've been discussing. Earlier movies seldom present this dynamic so openly or make it such a strong focal point of the story. The kept man, that's interesting.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's also the reason why William Holden is in the movie, because Montgomery Clift wouldn't play it.
That's right. A little too close to real life. Wasn't he dating an older woman?
You got it. Mm-hmm. Exactly. He was with a woman who was like 15 or something years older, who had some pretty dark stuff in her background as well. And it was just too close. So I am obsessed with Hollywood stories like that, where you realize that Holden's real breakthrough came because Montgomery Clift was afraid to play this part.
Yep.
And I don't think Montgomery Clift would have been nearly as good. I can tell you right now that the voiceover would have been nowhere near as good.
You're absolutely right. And the voiceover is crucial. You've got that kind of cynical tone from Holden, which he perfected in movies like Stalag 17 and later films too, which became part of the persona. So, yeah, I don't buy it as far as in a what-if world, an alternate reality. Yeah, maybe you get some pretty cool acting chops from Clift, but that voiceover would nowhere have been the same.
Not a chance. And it's interesting to me that in real life, this was a bit of a comeback for Holden, because he had been in Hollywood for 10 years and had not made it.
Languishing, right. Mm-hmm.
Languishing. I mean, he broke out of the gate with Golden Boy. Like we say, could Clift have been as good in Sunset Boulevard? But, Holden got Golden Boy when he was not the guy to play that part, really.
Right.
But just the fact that he was hanging on and that he got this part and that Wilder took such a shine to him, and that they worked so well together. And then, of course, he would win his Oscar for Stalag 17.
Yeah, 3 years later, and he becomes the #1 box office star by 1956. So this was his decade, and this is the movie that helped put him there.
It goes back to what you were saying about Tom Hanks earlier. Holden had to get comfortable in his more mature self. He looked so young in the 40s in all those movies that nobody really took him seriously. But in this film, you saw he grew up. In the course of making this movie, I think he grew up into a totally different actor. And I do want to say that I remember back in, I think it was 2008 or 2009 or something, my friend Andrea Callis, who ran the archives at Paramount, supervised a new high-def restoration of Sunset Boulevard. There's another one that's just been done that is coming out, which is pretty great. But I remember the first time, and I was not a big proponent of high def and digitizing movies and all that kind of stuff, but it was the restoration of Sunset Boulevard that changed my mind.
Amazing.
Because when I saw it on a big screen, digitally enhanced like that, there was so much more information.
I'll bet.
In the shadows that it was like seeing it for the first time. And a lot of that really helped Holden's performance because, as I said earlier, it's a reactive performance. Swanson commands your attention so much that the first few times you watch the movie, you may not be watching Holden's reactions to her.
He's in the back seat. Yep.
Yeah. His performance is greater than you realize.
It's true.
When you see this film on a big screen, because there is never a moment where he isn't giving 100% to every scene, because when Norma does her thing, he is totally in that spider web. You just see every emotion crossing his face, and it's fantastic. It's beautiful film acting.
Absolutely. I think he's top billed, right? Doesn't his name come above Gloria Swanson?
He does get top billing, which kind of surprises me, quite honestly. But that was typical of sexist Hollywood back then.
Oh, sure.
No matter how, except for probably Garbo. I guess maybe Joan Crawford took top billing in her movies, right?
Mae West, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting you bring her up because she was the first choice to play Norma Desmond.
That's right. Isn't it interesting? Everything circles back to some interesting trivia on this movie. And again, you could have a field day just diving deep into that pool.
And you mentioned two others. It was Mae West, which you realize very quickly the film would have been a comedy.
Wouldn't have worked.
It would not have worked, and she shot it right down because she said the idea that I would pay for sex is not conceivable.
Yeah, that's
not
right.
conceivable.
That's right. That's so Mae West. Absolutely.
And you also mentioned Pola Negri, who was asked if she'd be interested, but they that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And Mary Pickford, which I thought was a really interesting notion, but certainly it would have gone in a totally different direction. I love the fact that Swanson was so willing to lean into the more horrible aspects,
right,
of Norma, and had no qualms about appearing demented on screen.
Plus, I mean, beauty is the eye of the beholder, but in all honesty, I mean, Gloria Swanson is not an unattractive.
No.
Not at all. I mean,
she's 50 years old when she made this movie, And I don't want to repeat them, but there were some famous quotes from Erich von Stroheim regarding her sexiness at that point. That Wilder didn't really appreciate. He basically saying, what are you talking about? Her right now.
I don't blame him. Yeah. All right, so we do have to talk about what's going on in this film thematically. So what are the major takeaways to you, Eddie?
Well, the way fame is a narcotic, success is a narcotic, and if you aren't grounded and level-headed, it's going to destroy you. And I think that Billy Wilder just saw that every day in Hollywood. Like, Hollywood was filled with wonderful, fantastic, creative people doing amazing things and living their dreams. And then the flip side of it is people who come there to live their dreams and have them crushed, and they end up living a nightmare. And even when they've had success, you can't let it go. That, to me, that's the overriding theme of the story. And it's translatable to other fields. It's like watching an athlete past their prime still thinking, I can do it. And it's like, you got to walk away, man.
Know your limits.
You got to walk away and say, that was great, and now that is over. But it's hard when the business is based on keeping all those illusions alive.
Yeah, everything you said is spot on, but also the dangers of living a lie, right? Of glorying in the past, not evolving as a person or artist.
Yeah.
She's living in this delusional fantasy world, refusing to learn or accept the truth, which is she's no longer in demand. She's no longer attractive to audiences. She can't escape the sins of pride or vanity or obsession with self-image. So there's no opportunity for growth and evolution. And hey, if it's mental illness, which is a whole other subset, right? That's one thing. And that certainly could be true here. But I think the way that Wilder and company are presenting it, we knew much less about mental illness back then. By that closing shot where she's coming close to the camera, it seems like she has crossed that Rubicon too, insanity. But still, the whole picture, she's living a lie.
Well, yes, she is. And that doesn't mean that there isn't truth in what she's saying and doing and trying to achieve. It's just, I mean, this is why, to me, it's a noir story, because it's the two people who should never meet end up meeting.
Yes.
And there's no way they both get out of it alive.
It's all about determinism and dark fate, right, Eddie? Because it's crucial that the story begins at the end. It's told in flashback, as many classic noirs are, as Double Indemnity was, another Wilder joint.
Exactly.
Joe's dead. He's ironically telling the story as a voiceover narrator from beyond the grave, and this makes us believe that the character's fate is predestined. We know up front how his luck will sour. You think back, too, on how Max presciently announces to the stranger who has wandered into Norma's mansion, Madame is waiting for you upstairs. They both happen to be writers. They both happen to be single, but it feels like more than mere coincidence, right? And you reflect on how Joe keeps running into Betty as if they're star-crossed lovers destined to fall in love. Yeah. So again, the determinism and dark fate here definitely falls into the noir canon.
Think about how many similarities this film has to Double Indemnity. I mean, they both start with the guy dictating the story of his downfall. Both involve meeting the woman he shouldn't meet by calling at her house in Hollywood. Halfway through the film, he ends up being more interested in this younger woman who's safer. That's also what happens in Double Indemnity.
Yep.
Right? I mean, there are so many similarities that in some respects, I think that when Wilder was concocting this story, it's almost like he said, well, it really worked in Double Indemnity. This is just going to be a variation on it. And it's interesting. Did you know what the genesis of the film is? What the incident was that sparked Wilder to want to make this movie? Really interesting. It was two things. He was at dinner and I forget who he was dining with, but they were approached by D.W. Griffith when Griffith was on the skids. And like Griffith came up to the table and like was asking for money.
Oh, I didn't hear this.
And Wilder was so brokenhearted and crushed at like, wow, 25 years ago, this guy was Cecil B. DeMille. And now nobody remembers him and he's lost all the glory. So that was the incident where he decided, I have to make a movie about how Hollywood uses people up and disposes of them. And the other thing was the swimming pool. He just knew there was a swimming pool, and that the character was going to be dead in the swimming pool. And at one point, it was called The Swimming Pool Story.
Wow!
I mean, that wasn't going to be the title of the movie. They called it The Hollywood Story for a long time. To he and Brackett, it was The Swimming Pool Story. So that was a big part of the whole thing from the start.
Oh, I love hearing these stories. Amazing stuff. And again, it ties into another theme, how Hollywood needs to reckon with its past, how Hollywood needs to change with the times. This movie was made in an era when the film industry was challenged in several ways, right? The studio system was faltering. You have competition from television beginning. The studios are forced to sell off their own theaters, deal with congressional investigations that turned into communist witch hunt at that time, results in blacklists. So the message here is, to me, that the old money, the antiquated forces that built Hollywood, as exemplified by Norma and her mansion, right? They could no longer prop up modern Tinseltown. And maybe the industry needs to evolve and adapt to changing times. And concurrently, Sunset Boulevard serves to me as this sad commentary on how quickly talent can become a disposable commodity.
Oh, God, yes. Look, as a host on Turner Classic Movies, I mean, this comes home to me every time I sit down to write a script or something. And it always amazes me because when you realize how short their career was,
right,
and yet the impression they leave in the culture extends. You know, I was doing an intro not that long ago, and I was talking about Sidney Greenstreet, and he acted in movies for like 8 years. It was 8 years. That was it.
That's it. Yeah.
And he made all these movies and is now like, I'm not going to say everybody knows who Sidney Greenstreet is, but you know, he left an impression in those 8 years that is so outsized.
Exactly. Kind of like John Cazale in the 70s.
Yeah, exactly. Like, can you believe how much this guy did in such an incredibly short amount of time?
Best batting average ever.
That's right. What, 5 movies, 5 Best Picture nominations? Wasn't that
5 masterpieces? Yep.
Yeah, kind of remarkable. But, you know, this is just something that I'm acutely aware of these days because of how time has changed. Because, you know, from the time you're 15 till the time you're 35, those 20 years seem like forever. You know, like you're 15 years old. You can't even imagine being 35 years old. But now that 20-year span was 2005 to today. It's nothing.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
You're absolutely right. I mean, the last 20 years have gone by in what feels like 5 years to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just am always thinking about that in terms of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Because like they talk about dog years, there should be like Hollywood years. Like, you know, I was on top for 10 years and normally you'd say that's nothing. But boy, back then you can get a lot done in 10 years.
Yeah. But this whole concept of, you know, Hollywood needing to reckon with its past, change with the times. I want to read you real briefly. This is Pamela Hutchinson, critic with The Guardian. Really nails it here. She says, the film industry in Sunset Boulevard is shown to be on its last legs. Paramount producer Sheldrake is ill with stress. Gillis is broke and only one rejection letter away from quitting show business for a copy desk in Dayton, Ohio. His friend Artie is stuck on a disastrous shoot in Arizona. Betty, the scriptreader, is optimistic that she can make films that matter, but even she has been through the mill, rejected as a wannabe starlet. Sunset Boulevard is twice as chilling a film when you realize that Desmond made Paramount Studios a success rather than the other way around. The faltering movie business was built not on fragile foundations of an art form doomed to obsolescence, but on stronger, more ambitious grounds than it occupied in 1950. So I think there's some there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm curious. What do you think Betty does at the end of the movie?
That's a good question. You think she sticks around with Artie? I don't know. I think she's got a taste of grander ambitions, so I'm a little dubious. How about you?
I think she leaves town. I think she goes home and gets married and settles down and has kids and chalks it up to, you know, my Hollywood experience.
I smell a fan fiction opportunity here, Eddie. I think you need to write the book.
But see, here's the deal, Eric. I'm kind of reading into it Nancy herself, who that was her life story, right? I mean, she only worked for a few more years and then she got out while the getting was good and didn't want to become a Norma or anything like that. And let's give total kudos here at the end to Gloria Swanson herself for avoiding all of that, right? I mean, she lived it till she made it, I guess, in 1983 or something was when she finally passed away. And she was totally level-headed. You know, this was a big comeback thing for her. And, you know, they really expected her to win the Oscar and all this stuff, but it didn't really lead to a comeback and she didn't really need it. You know, she lived a perfectly fine life and her career was amazing. She's a screen legend, but her life was actually better.
Well, it sounds like she was grounded. She had common sense about this, and she didn't have illusions of, oh, this is going to catapult me back into stardom. Don't
you think that she would have to have been? Because I don't think a person who's slightly cuckoo could have played that part.
No. Well, just again, it speaks to she had talent. She was a good actress.
Yeah. Such an interesting niche that I don't want to say it was a niche because she was like the biggest movie star in the world at one point. But when the film is seen by younger people, I try to impress upon them, you know, Norma seems a little crazy, but you got to appreciate how well Swanson is playing this role because she's acting in a way that she was trained to act in silent pictures. And her over-the-top performance works perfectly for me.
We're in complete simpatico there. Yeah, again, it's uncanny casting. And the meta aspect, as well as just the fact that she's a good actress.
Yeah, she's terrific.
Absolutely. Just a few other themes to chew on here, Eddie. One that easily comes to mind is a fly ensnared in a spider's web, right? Joe becomes entangled in the trap of Norma's twisted life. He can't easily extricate himself from this web. And when he tries for the final time, the Spider Woman devours her prey, right? Sunset Boulevard is also a film about the consequences of enabling. Max, he makes matters infinitely worse because he keeps feeding Norma's ego with lies and faux attention from filmmakers and imaginary fans. So there's that aspect. And also the obvious takeaway that there's no shortcuts to success here. Hard work, real talent, and lots of luck are certainly required. You ponder how Joe is down on his luck as a Hollywood writer, but decides to take up Norma's offer to live with them and write for her. And yeah, he ultimately pays for this opportunistic shortcut with his life.
Of course.
It's Sunset Boulevard's 75th birthday. Birthdays are about giving presents, but I always say it's the fans who continue to receive the gifts. So what is Sunset Boulevard's greatest gift to viewers, Eddie?
That it never disappoints. I think no matter who you are or when you see this movie, I think it's so perfect a film that it works every single time. I just read I think that the film is actually, because of its 75th anniversary, it's been brought back and is actually playing in theaters now.
Yeah, I'm reading here that it was just 2 days ago, August 3rd. I guess it was a limited release AMC theaters.
Yeah. I read somebody said, they went to see the film the other day and they had trepidation because they went into the theater and it wasn't full, but there was a pretty good turnout and a lot of young people. And this person said, I was nervous because I thought they wouldn't give the film the respect it deserved. And at the end, everybody was applauding at the end of the film. And this is a contemporary audience and they got it. They understood that they had just watched something very, very special. What else could a filmmaker hope for than 75 years later, they're still applauding, they're still laughing in all the right places, they're still gasping in all the right places. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, they're taking something away from the film that isn't a knee-jerk reaction, but is kind of poignant and profound, which is the secret weapon of this film, that it sticks with you because it's not, like a horror film and it's not like a comedy. It's deeper than those two things. And it's deeper because it mixes those elements so incredibly well.
True.
But to me, that's the gift. It works. And I think it is the ultimate Billy Wilder movie.
Is it the gateway drug you would recommend to newbies?
I don't know. It depends. I find that young women are able to respond to the film a little better than young men early on. But I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe there's something uncomfortable for young men in the character of Joe Gillis, but I don't know.
Interesting.
I know that every time I watch it, I find something more.
Yes.
There's always something more in it that is amazing. Wow, how did they think of that? That is so perfect.
Completely. All right, I've just unwrapped what I think is Sunset Boulevard's greatest gift to viewers, and the bright and shiny object in front of me is certainly the scalpel-sharp script by Wilder and Brackett. It's most responsible for keeping Sunset Boulevard evergreen in the 21st century, I maintain.
Yeah, absolutely.
This extraordinary writing is responsible for a film that can boast of several all-time great scenes and quotable lines. We can agree.
Yes.
But also the contrast in the two main characters' personalities, as well as, of course, the acting styles of Swanson versus Holden, really makes for a fascinating study. And again, it's a credit to the screenwriting. Joe's demeanor is cool and cynical, his mindset modern, his mannerisms realistic and credible. Then you've got Norma, whose movements, expressions, and speech, by contrast, are stylized. They're exaggerated. They're overdramatic and grandiose. She creates this grotesque and creepy impression that plays on the opposite spectrum. Now here I'm going to quote Cinema Blend reviewer Brian Holcomb, who said, "One of the great joys of the film is watching the way in which William Holden's naturalistic performance clashes with an actress and performance style from an earlier age. This tension actually generates a great deal of the film's oddball humor, since every moment Norma is seen striking grotesque poses and being dramatic is quickly undercut by Joe's matter-of-fact expressions."
Yeah.
You also think about how the noir and horror elements in the film Not just their visual elements, but tones and instances reflected in the screenplay. They serve as a delicious juxtaposition to the comedic and satiric qualities infused in the movie. Yeah, to me, this genre mashup, this disparate stew of styles, it creates an unforgettable film experience among viewers who can appreciate a sharp wit and ironic tone.
Yeah.
Well, are there any current or forthcoming projects, events, appearances, or otherwise that maybe our listeners should know about? Do you have anything, for example, planned special for Sunset Boulevard's 75th anniversary on TCM or elsewhere?
Well, if there is, it's not me doing it.
Okay.
All five of us were together. All the hosts were together for New Year's Eve last year, and we all picked a film to show. And I think Ben picked Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, cool.
So we all had an opportunity to talk about it on the eve of its 75th anniversary. But yeah, I'm around. I've got my Noir City Film Festivals that are coming up in Chicago in early September, Detroit.
That's right. I think I might be able to be there. I think it's at the Music Box Theater in Chicago, and I'm going to see if my schedule aligns, but that would be so fun to attend that.
Yeah, please. I'd love for you to do that. I'll buy you a drink.
Not even needed, but it would just be cool to shake your hand, sir. But yeah, you're out and about. You're doing the world tour, it sounds like, on behalf of Noir.
Yes, I do get around.
Keeping the moss off the old back, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, Eddie, this as always was an absolute blast. Hey, until next time, remember not to yell at any sleepwalkers. Always do the tango on tile floors, and say hi to Rudy the next time you park behind the shoeshine parlor.
Okay, very good. And as long as the woman's paying, why not take the Viking?
Exactly. Great stuff, Eddie. It was really fun catching up with you.
All right, a pleasure, Eric, as always.
Did you know that Cineversary has its own website? That's right, we actually now have a vanity URL that's easy to remember, which will take you to a freshly designed portal where you can quickly access the latest episode of your favorite podcast, as well as all of our previous installments. Now it's a lot easier to spread the good word about our show to your friends and family. You simply tell them to visit Cineversary.com. Pretty simple, right? That's Cineversary.com. We also have a custom email address just for you. Now, if you ever want to share feedback on our show or offer suggestions for future installments, or maybe you just have a question about Cineversary, send it to us at cineversarypodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can really help our show grow by spreading the good word about the Cineversary show to your peeps. Even better, please leave a positive online review and rating, which significantly helps us to get discovered by new listeners. So if you use Apple Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, some of these other services, simply search for the Cineversary page, look for a link that says something like ratings or reviews, click that link, and leave a review and or rating. While you're at it, take a moment to like us on Facebook. We also have a presence on Twitter. Our handle is @CineversaryPod, where you can easily tweet or follow us. And if you want to go an extra step in your support of our show and help keep us ad-free, please consider making a monetary donation to the Cineversary podcast by visiting tinyurl.com/donate-cineversary. We really appreciate your support. Lastly, have you checked out my Cineverse Group website? Yeah, it's easy to get confused by these similar sounding names: Cineversary, Cineverse, Tomato. But Cineverse is actually the name of my private film discussion group I founded back in 2005 that continues to meet weekly on Zoom. Every week, the Cineverse group watches, researches, and discusses a different movie, and I create a summary write-up, call it a mini essay if you will, on that movie that gets posted to the Cineverse group blog. So if you want to enjoy reading in-depth content that examines different discussion-worthy motion pictures, including classic Hollywood films, independent features, foreign masterworks, modern movies, and silent-era standouts, then visit cineversegroup.com, simply spelled CINEVERSE group.com. Fun fact, every posted article on cineversegroup.com includes a link to a recording of our group discussion of that particular film, with me leading the conversation as moderator. So if you like what I'm doing on the Cineversary podcast, you might also want to give a listen to some of our Cineverse Group recordings, which are podcasts of a different sort. Again, head over to cineversegroup.com, where you can check out some interesting text and audio content on a variety of films, not necessarily celebrating a milestone anniversary. Time now for standing ovations. This is where I give a shout out to a book, movie, TV show, podcast, website, or event that appeals to classic movie lovers just like you and me. For August, I've got a smattering of shout-outs. First, a timely and topical heads-up that film professor David Lubin has just released his highly anticipated hardcover book, Ready for My Close-Up, The Making of Sunset Boulevard and the Dark Side of the Hollywood Dream. This is available everywhere books are sold from Grand Central Publishing. It's already drawing national attention. The work has been spotlighted in major media outlets for its deep dive into the making of Wilder's legendary film and its insights into the shadows behind Hollywood's golden facade. So check out that book. Secondly, the 6th season of Turner Classic Movies' acclaimed podcast series, The Plot Thickens, it's now underway. And this time it's taking listeners deep into the turbulent creation of the beleaguered 1963 film Cleopatra. This 6-episode limited series chronicles how director Joseph L. Mankiewicz navigated one of Hollywood's longest and most expensive productions, a project plagued by spiraling budgets and medical emergencies, climate setbacks, and, of course, the tabloid-fueling romance between Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Host Ben Mankiewicz draws on family history to uncover how his Oscar-winning uncle tried to salvage an epic from chaos. Yeah, I'm currently on episode 3, and it is absolutely riveting, so give it a listen. Meanwhile, the 2025 Noir City Film Festival is making the rounds. It is coming to Chicago at the Music Box Theater September 5th through 11th, featuring a lineup of classic noir titles in both 35mm and digital formats. So from September 5th through 7th, screenings will actually be hosted by this month's special guest, Eddie Muller. Then, between September 8th and 11th, the screenings will be hosted by film historian Alan Rode. Highlights across these dates include The Grifters, The Killing, Detour, Gun Crazy, Out of the Past, The Woman in the Window, and many, many more. Additional Noir City Film Festival stops after Chicago include Detroit, that would be September 19th through 21st, Washington, D.C., October 10th through the 23rd, and Philadelphia on November 14th through the 16th. For more details on this festival and the different dates, visit noircity.com. And lastly, in celebration of its 60th anniversary, Rodgers & Hammerstein's The Sound of Music. It's coming back to theaters. This is going to be a stunning 4K restoration next month, starring Julie Andrews as Maria and Christopher Plummer as Captain Von Trapp. The timeless musical, it will screen on September 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. You'll want to check your local listings for participating theaters, dates, and times. Academy Award-winning actor Al Pacino has delivered so many exceptional performances over his career. But what's his finest moment on the big screen? Is it his role in the Godfather trilogy? Scent of a Woman? Heat? Serpico? Scarface? Glengarry Glen Ross? Or, as many, including yours truly, would insist, is it his portrayal of real-life bank robber Sonny Wartzik in Sidney Lumet's Dog Day Afternoon? Join us next month as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of this seminal work of the mid-1970s. Until then, this is your humble host, Eric Martin, reminding you to butter up that popcorn, live a big screen surround sound life, and cherish those classic movies, folks, because, as always, they're not getting older, they are getting better. We appreciate you giving us a listen.